So we're here at the Black Sheep Garage, kind of a car meet of sorts. Do a quick run through of all the cars that are here so far. CC, Integrale, Delta, probably just an HF. Yeah, I think it's HF. It's not the wide body model, but still period correct. This livery, Martini Racing. Very clean car. There's mine, all cleaned up. It's pretty much the first event that I've done since I've gotten the car. Just got the car registered yesterday, so I'm glad to finally be able to take it out and drive. M2, beautiful car. Dry carbon interior with blue stitching on black leather. Super clean. Taylor's Mustang. Bagged. Fucking Italians love this car. Mustang. Single turbo Mustang with a dump pretty much straight down. Eh. The man, the myth, the legend. You putting it down? Hiding?
We're gonna go get some food.
Oh, driving over, or walking over. Excuse me. I'm not sure what the hell this is. JX or something? Chaser? Toyota Grande Mark II. Dude was drifting every turn, acting like a fool on the way here. Super cambered out. Look like 18-inch equips. Jeremy's 5.0. Another dude from base is 5.0. Got a Tezza 350. Ooh, supercharged. Still in supercharge. Pretty dope. R33, I think it's a GTS 2.5T or 25T. Yep, GTS 25T. Civic SI. Mustang. Another dude from base. Missed the convoy up. It's got it all done up underneath. It's got show style. Not my style really, but it's clean. Got the FC with the retrofitted projector headlights, keeping in pop-ups. $180, probably import model. Looks like a 180. Oh yeah, 180. And then another 180. Both, looks like they both had SR. Beautiful little car. Tiny as fuck. With positive rear camber. Check out that shit. I don't know how that shit works. Tiny little motor. She'll get the job done. Targa top. Sick. Interior looks redone. R33. Can't tell. Looks like a GTR. It's got all the bumpers for the GTR. Nice little setup. Clean engine bay. In a Millennium Jade, I think. Dope. Bi-turbo. I don't know these models. I don't know Mercedes that well. Wagon though, dope. Leather Altezza. Not bad. Not really my style. It's really show. Drifts. Ooh, Evo. Woohoo. God damn. Love it. And then Elise. Older Elise. Like first gen maybe? Second gen? Can't tell. M3, I think, or yeah, M3. Super clean as well. Brand new, I mean, should be. Mini on bags. All carbon fiber. Accessories. Clean. Clean. So, let's see, just focus. So I got them on test fitted. They're sitting on 2x4s. There's a ton of wheel gap, or tire gap, which is essentially fender gap. Shh. It's on stock suspension. It's probably the original shocks and struts because it's only got roughly 40-some thousand miles on the car. So, yeah. Fronts, they're kind of turned out a little bit, but they sit pretty much flush with the fender, with the car down as is. I'm probably going to run a 205/45 instead of a 50 when I do get tires for these, after I rebuild them. Because I just want to make sure I clear the fenders whenever I actually do lower it. The rear, as most Rallyes, as you can see, is pretty, I can't get a good shot, it's kind of sunk. As you can see, looking straight down, it's kind of sunk in. It has a pretty nice fender lip though, so I'm not trying to like gouge that. I'm not rolling the fenders at all. It's not turning into some stance car. It's a little bit better. The car's super dirty from all the pollen the other day as it was sitting out in the driveway. But yeah, I got a bunch of different sets of wheels, but I don't really have any. This was the first set of 4x100s that I was supposed to be there for a month and a half. My class got shut down 2 weeks early and I had to come back home during the quarantine, so it was kind of rough getting back to the house. Having to have special paperwork saying that we could be out driving, but yeah, so I don't want to break into the motor yet because I'm afraid if I come into any problems and I can't order parts right now or get parts. I guess ordering them isn't really the problem, it's getting them here. But yeah, just gonna wait on that, play with what I can, and then as soon as I come out of quarantine, it's going to get detailed and ceramic coated. Gonna order some coilovers, probably like STs maybe, or KW. Drop it maybe like 1.5 inches, maximum with 2 inches. I'm not trying to have all kinds of camber, whatnot. But yeah, other than that, it's just gonna be keeping it clean, wheels, tires, the engine work eventually, and then when I move back to the US, I'm gonna start going through the engine, redoing everything, probably eventually pull the motor to clean everything and detail and paint a bunch of stuff, and then I'll start doing the suspension. And when I do the suspension, I'm probably gonna take it to a shop and have them, I wanna redo all the undercoating on the car and fix any like scratches or dents on the bottom of the car. Eventually a new exhaust. It's got a new exhaust. The owners actually paid, the old owners actually paid to get a new exhaust put on just so it would pass inspection conveniently like 4 months before I bought it. So everything's in really good shape. Yep, Car's in amazing shape. There's not really any damage anywhere except for like under the skirts. There's a few little dings where it looks like somebody might have ran over something, which is kind of shitty, but yeah. And it looks like shit right now because there's a ton of fucking pollen. So, yep, appreciate it. Started picking up stuff. Well, these are for the equips that are over there. I just showed you. Bought this for the front of the Golf, but I'm waiting until the car gets ceramic coated to put it on. Same with the badge for the Rallye Golf. Got this from the previous owners. It should have been the one that was originally taken off the car. Blinkers from the Rallye, but I will not be using these because I don't like the amber. Rallye grill. Well, maybe not new, but decent headlight. What's up, everybody? So, taking advantage of the quarantine. Kind of already started, but I've been having issues with fluid leak on the front of the motor and down the side. So obviously it was pretty obvious immediately after looking at it, though, that I was getting oil leak from the valve cover gasket, and then I started noticing the pooling on top of the motor mount of coolant. I already have this disconnected, but yeah, pop plugs off, plug wires off, and then just disconnected the coolant temp sensors, 2 bolts on the neck, and popped it off. And immediately I could already see RTV around the housing, but I kind of figured there was either no gasket in there or the gasket was torn at some point, and then they RTV'd around it to fix it temporarily, which is a terrible fix. So popped the neck off, and it's out of there already, but you can see there's some RTV on it a little bit. I still have to clean it. I still need to clean around the front of the motor here. But yeah, got the gasket out. So this is the new one from the Victor Reigns kit, the head gasket kit, and this is the one that was in there. And if you can see, this is a flat round gasket. This is completely not the right one. And you can see all the RTV caked around it. This thing won't focus. Yep, there's a ton of RTV caked on it on the inside and a little bit on the outside. And it looks like there's blue and red RTV. So they probably had some more leaks once it was installed and caked some more on the outside. And on the back side of the housing, where the gasket goes, there's even 4 little tabs, which you can kind of see right there, that even go and hold it further into place and kind of give you a guideline for how it goes. Yeah, I don't know. And you can see all the RTV that I pulled off of the housing already. I still need to finish cleaning that up. Clean off the front of the head. And yeah, then I'm moving on to, we're just gonna tackle the valve cover gasket while I'm in here as well and go from there. It's super crowded. I'm not super enthusiastic about crowded engine bays, but since it's a Rallye, I am not gonna be deleting things or tucking anything. Other things that need done, the supercharger needs rebuilt because there's a lot of oil laying down in here in the side of the supercharger. Looks like it's replaced. It's steel braided line. You can see it moving there. The feed line for the supercharger is leaking down here. Pretty typical from what I read. and it's leaking a little bit in the back side where it attaches to the side of the block. I probably will replace that and a bunch of other random stuff when I get back to the States and rebuild the motor. I'm not going to be tackling a lot of that stuff because it's not super bad right now. I am needing to do this though because if the leak gets worse, the shipping company that transports our cars out of here will not stand for oil leaks or coolant leaks when the car is in transport, so they can actually deny your car being shipped. So I'm trying to handle this stuff now because I leave. As of right now, with the quarantine, it might potentially delay that, but I'm supposed to be leaving in January of this year, so the car will probably ship out in December of this year, but we will see. Yep. So I got the valve cover off. See the girdle from underneath the valve cover, I forget what it's called. Splash shield for the cams, whatever. Got everything off. Don't mind that. I was having fun with a stuck fastener on the valve cover. Well, the bracket from the valve cover to the intake manifold was the one bracket on the driver's side was seized in there no matter what I did, so I ended up having to bust out the extractors, which I forgot I had, so I was messing with it for a while. But yeah, just hammer that thing, and these things are a blessing. I had this kit for probably about 8 years and never used it, from Irwin. But yeah, put it on the head of the fastener if you can get it on, slam it down in there, and then they're counter drilled, so it actually, as you're loosening the fastener, it digs in tighter. So in case you didn't know what they're actually for. But yeah, so got that out and then pulled the valve cover off. Everything actually looks really good on the head. There's not a ton of debris, so you can see. The valve cover is soaking in my wash sink, and then we're going to scrub that up and then just clean it and reinstall it. Yeah, everything came off pretty well. I had some concerns because the valve cover had leakage coming from several points on the gasket for the valve cover itself, and then the PCV valve was just RTV'd where this port goes into the top of the valve cover, so it had that. This was like this on the bottom of it, so that was on there like that, and then that was just RTV'd to the valve cover at the base. And then in the valve cover, this should have been in there. It's like a mushroom looking O-ring that seats in the valve cover, and then seats, that's super hard to even hold it. Should have been like that on the valve cover, and then this will be in the valve cover, and that seats nicely at the base of that once it's pushed up in there. So that'll fix that valve cover leak on the top. The gasket for the valve cover itself will fix the other leak. The neck and the head. Trying to like clean up as much as I can of the oil. I had oil leaking from the valve cover gasket here, going down the brackets for the accessories. It was staying off the cam gear and the belt pretty well. And then there was a bit leaking down the backside by the fuel injectors onto the intake manifold. And then there was more leaking down like the cam alignment group cutout or whatever you want to call it, and leaking down the side of the block, and more oil leaking down the front of the head here, down around the coolant neck, spark plugs, motor mount, and then the coolant was leaking out of the head as well there. But yep, so I'm gonna get back to it, clean up the valve cover, and then reinstall. Forgot to get a bunch of video while the cover was off and everything else is disconnected. Pretty straightforward. I mean, the only things you really got to worry about if you don't know are so you just took the coolant neck off. Once I pulled the two fasteners out, I was able to see that it had the wrong gasket in there in the first place. Somebody had inserted a flat round washer instead of the OEM round washer? Round washer? I don't know what you would call it. Yeah, so it wasn't seating, so then they had RTV'd around it to probably get it to stop leaking after they discovered that leak. So I put the correct one in there with no RTV. All that's back together. The other leak was coming from the PCV. It was just blowout coming around onto the valve cover, and once I pulled that up, I could tell that the only thing that was there's like a rubber hose at the top, and there was RTV around the base. They had RTV'd basically the valve to the valve cover because it was leaking or blowing out oil around it. There was no O-ring on the valve cover. I have that O-ring. Well, it's on there now. I had it. The valve cover was pretty straightforward. All the nuts came off. The back section is a little bit more difficult with all this shit in the way, so you have to pull everything off or out of the way. And then the brackets from the valve cover to the intake manifold make it a pain in the ass to get to the back valve cover bolts. And then the one that was under here was stripped out on the bracket, so I had to get my extractors to get that bolt that was it was like an Allen key head that was stripped out. I had to get that out though. Pulled it off the valve cover. I'll throw some videos in of everything apart. I took some pictures, but the valve cover was pretty clean. There's not like a ton of buildup on the inside of the valve cover or the head on the valve train. So somebody's been doing regular oil changes throughout its life, or else they took the head apart and cleaned it once before, which I kind of doubt, but anything's possible really. The valve cover was leaking on the side here by the timing, and it was just blowing down the front of the motor. The oil was leaking from the valve cover here, blowing down onto the water neck and around the spark plugs, and the coolant was leaking out of here. There was also oil leak from the side plug on the old gasket. Threw that out, installed the new gasket and the valve cover, and had the valve cover back in place and almost fully tightened down before I realized that there's like a little spherical, or not spherical, just a washer in the valve cover gaskets that had pulled off of the old one and was still in there, so I could not seat the valve cover properly, so I had to take it back apart, pull that little washer off, and then seat the new gasket back down again. Didn't take too long. But yeah, everything else is just everything back together is ordinary then. And yeah, I cleaned some things while I was in there. Eventually I need to get the supercharger rebuilt. It has a lot of blow by coming out right here from somewhere. I'm not too familiar with the G6D chargers. And then it's got a lot down in there around the pulley for the charger. And I think a bunch of it is also coming out from the oil line over here, but it's down beneath the supercharger, so you can't really see anything. Some preliminary looks, something that's gonna need changed eventually. Sensor down here, the plastic is all cracked up, and then some of the hoses are starting to go. They're not too bad, they probably been replaced before, but yeah, other than it just being super cluttered and being a little difficult to work on to get to everything, it wasn't bad. I was taking my time talking to people on the phone and taking pictures and looking around at other stuff, but it took me about 3 hours to get everything apart, clean everything up, and then back together. I finished around midnight, and I think I started around 8 o'clock, maybe 9, but it was probably only about 3 hours of actual work. Yeah, cool. Yeah, That's pretty much it. I'm probably gonna avoid driving the car until the quarantine is lifted, so that way I don't have to wash it again, and then it's going to the detailers to get ceramic coated. It's not too bad right now. Like, the paint is super good for obviously the car, but it's been resprayed. Really good shine though. Like, I love it. Probably gonna be removing the OEM rubber trim from here. As you can see here, it's broken. Anyways, on both sides it's missing this section, like the last 2 inches, which really bothers me a lot. And in certain places the trim is starting to pull up from the car, so instead of just having it ceramic coated and it not being protected underneath there, I'm gonna remove the trim. I'll probably leave it off, but I'll obviously keep it and install it at a later time. It's obviously worth a ton of money, like everything Rallye is. And yeah, you just don't throw out anything. So anything that comes off the motor is going to be kept regardless.